Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This video is going to be about working with MIDI maps and some tips and tricks. So if you are interested in this, please stay tuned. Alright, so what is MIDI? The MIDI was developed in early 1980s with the big companies came together and standardized it so that hardware devices and synthesizers and sequencers and drum machines could communicate with each other either by syncing tempos in a start and stop or by reading sounds from one off of the other and so on and so forth. So that was the main goal of the MIDI technology, and it's been great, and that's why it carried now all the way to iPads that we use it as well. So just to give you some explanation about MIDI technology is that it has a 16 channel in it. So the MIDI technology has 16 channels always, which means that it could go from 1 all the way up to 16, or you could even merge them. You could have first 4 channels to be all on 2 and the other ones to be on 1 and so on. And the reason is that so you could send different types of messages on different channels. So that was one struggle I had always to understand how that was working, and I used to program something in my controller expecting that is going to move that knob on my hardware or the software, but it doesn't do, or it could do it, but and then it just turns on tons of other things together for some reason which I didn't understand why. So that was one of the struggles I used to have when I first started in the MIDI. So to explain you one thing very important, I think it's crucial, is that when you are programming your controller to control something, either a hardware or a software, you gotta understand both ways, both sides. So you have to know first what is the receiver that you're sending it to expecting, what type of message is expecting. For example, if I have some instrument there expecting me to send CC7, which is the volume, which is a standard to control the volume of the instrument, and it is expecting me to send it on a specific channel. So, and then if I end up sending it on the wrong channel, that's not going to work. So that was one thing, and I found some ways to troubleshoot things, and I'm going to share with you as well, that helped me understand what is actually my controller actually sending to the receiver. So you gotta really know what is the receiver expecting. It could be a software based or it could be hardware based, and what is your sender, the controller, sending to. So the receiver part is easy. Usually you especially in the software based right now, you look at the tracks and you see, oh, this is expecting some values on channel 5 and so on. But the sender is the one that you also need to troubleshoot sometimes, and I found a way that to do it's very useful, and I want to share as well with you guys. Okay, so MIDI has also different types of messages, and those are things like the CC, which stands for control change, PC, which stands for program change, and an MMC, which is used for transport controls like start, stop, play, rewind, forward, etc. And there are also like the buttons here, they send CC values as well. So basically the encoders and potentiometers and knobs and buttons, they pretty much send CCs, but in a different setups, in a different ways. And also there is something called a toggle versus momentary, which I'm going to explain it too, that could change things how fly. So to demonstrate you guys something, now I'm going to do my demonstrations, everything using my Arturia Mini Lab and my iPad, but you can use this setup pretty much in any situation because it's the standard communication way of the MIDI works. So I'm going to share with you guys also my iPad screen to show you how I'm going to use something in. I'm going to use the Sample Tank app in iPad. So here I have my SampleTank app, and this is in the live mode. The 8 squares up there on the corner top left of the app, that has the live mode you go to. Otherwise, so this is the SampleTank that I'm going to show you guys the setup. Now this SampleTank is a multi-timbral, and multi-timbral means is that you can send it can play nodes on 16 channels. Either I don't know about the simultaneous. Usually there are some polyphony restrictions, but I think it could play depending on the app or the hardware. But you can at least play like 4 or 5, I think, channels minimum, if it's not more. So if you see here, I have my first square here has drums, and then it's on receiving MIDI on channel 10, and my upright bass is on channel 2, and this electric guitar on channel 3, and I have this funky stage EP also on channel 3, and I have this grand piano on channel 4. So let's say if I want to demonstrate the issue that I was talking about, the volume. So I have, what I did here in my also in my mini lab here, I programmed my knobs here to be the top knobs to have MIDI CC values they send on each channel. So this one sends on channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, and so on all the way up to channel 8. They all send CC value 7, controller 7, control message 7 on each channel. So, and the SampleTank works with MIDI control messages. So if I want to, let's say I wanted to raise the volume of my piano, which is on channel 4, so I have to turn on or off the knob 4 here, because that's the one that sends on channel 4. So something, for example, I struggled with, let's say I was moving this knob, one of the knobs here, and I thought that's going to manage the volume of the piano. And here I'm going to send the channel 4 on my piano so I can play piano here. So I switched my global MIDI out for this piano channel to be 4 so I can play the piano here. And then if I want to change the sound to be upright bass, I have to switch it to channel 2. So my keyboard is sending out to channel 2. Okay, so I'm going to go back to piano now. So let's say I wanted to lower the volume of the acoustic piano, and I thought the first knob is the one that is doing. But when I turn down the first knob, nothing happens. I say, oh, I thought I programmed the first knob to be CC7. Why is it not lowering the piano? And I'm going to show you this app, wonderful app, that you probably can find some software-based computer things too. So I come here to troubleshoot my MIDI controller, what is sending, because it is very important to understand what your MIDI controller is sending. So I thought the first knob here I turn, it's going to lower or raise the volume of the acoustic piano, but it's not. So now I'm going to turn the volume up, and I see what is it's sending. Oh, this is sending channel 1 controller 7, not channel 4. And I know here in my SampleTank app, the piano is on channel 4. So I gotta maybe either reprogram this knob to send it on channel 1, or let me check if there are other knobs have different values. The second knob, oh, this is on channel 2, channel 3. Oh, here it is. This fourth knob is sending CC7 on channel 4. So this should work then. If I play now, oh, here we go. Now it's working. And as you can see in the SampleTank, also the volume knob is responding to my controller. So this was one way I showed you how to troubleshoot ideas. Now, of course, this volume thing is simple, but you could get into complicated setups now, and you don't know why it's not working. And it is very, very important, I think, to do something like this to troubleshoot. You open an app like this. So this app called, by the way, it's Midi wrench. But you could also use software based, and I know I use sometimes the Arturia's editor for the mini lab, and they also have a view option there. You can see what they're sending. So let me show you a couple of things here. Look, I moved those knobs, and as you can see, each one is sending something, and I want to press these pads. Oh, this one is playing drums because it sends note values on channel 10, and I know on my sample tank I have it on 10. So this is the main one of the important things that I want to tell you guys, that you have to understand what is your receiver sending and what is your what is your sender is sending and what's the receiver expecting, and I know what's the sample tank expecting now. So I can program those knobs to be volumes or to be some other things. And to show you something here, if I want to switch my keyboard on, so one of the ways I do layerings, now this is not the best layering options, I usually have a piano layerings, things like that, but if you see here, my square 3 and square 4 are both receiving MIDI on channel 3. So that means if I switch my keyboards out to be on channel 3, now I should have a layer of both. Oh, but they're very low. It's probably the knob. I need to raise the volume of both. Now, because both of them are receiving on 3, so if I turn this knob, it's going to control both of the instruments, the electric and the EP. Maybe if I switch this to some string, it will be more noticeable for you guys. Let me see. Or if I switch this to channel 4 and I switch my keyboard to send channel 4, now I have acoustic piano and string. Now this string is not the best, but something like so. Just something, an idea of how you could layer things if you have a controller actually changes the MIDI channel on a fly. That's very important too if you want to do this type of setup. Because not every MIDI controller that I know can have a specific editing situation. But Arturia gives you very good editing software that you can specify every single element here to be on what channel and what exactly does. So that's the important thing to note. Okay, so now let's go on the next topic. Also, I'm going to show you, the next thing is that I'm going to show you the program change that I talked about. And here is this my controller I have. This one sends program changes at the below. And the cool thing is in Sample Tank, again, it could change your patches here based on your programs. So if I hit, this one sends program 1 and 2 and so on. So if I send 2, I switch to set. And you can do that with the other controllers as long as you programmed it to be program channel 1. But what I did is, this one sends MIDI out for programs on channel 16, and my sample tank here receives program changes on MIDI 16. So one important tip as well is that when you're doing things like this, probably most of you know, but just in case if you don't, um, you should be specific on the channels. So if I'm expecting to change patches with the controller, I should only specify on what channel I want, like I did here on the 16. And I just did the 16 because that's the most empty one that I hardly use. And if I want to add a different app to change program changes with controllers, I would set that maybe on channel 15. So that way each one could have different controller, or maybe you could program these buttons to be program changes, and when you hit shift, or when you hit the next group here, it could be different sets if different program changes. So that is important, because if you send every message on every channel, that was one of the problems that I used to face long time ago. When I hit a button, I thought it's going to do this. It does it, but it does 1,000 other things with it, and I get crazy. Why is this one is turning off, the other one is turning on? I know this one, it should happen, but why my other machine or software or other synthesizers volume went down? I didn't want that. So because maybe I was sending it on all channels, or I was sending it to multiple channels, the same CC value, which shouldn't happen. So tips like this, things like this also important, because I struggled with this type of issues when I first started a long time ago on Midi. So that's the other thing. And let's see what else we need to cover. So just to recap this, sender and receiver is very important, and to have a specific Midi channel to do something specific is very important. So you want to change a program, you set that on a specific channel for a specific device, so not everything gets turned on or off, or volume goes up or down, or program changes for all, things like that. And the other thing I want to say is toggle versus momentary. So the buttons, this is a button configuration related. So it is toggle versus momentary, which means in the momentary you would have you could send on and off as you release. So if you hit one, it sends a value, different value, and you release, it also sends something else. So just to show you in this Midi Wrench app again, I'm gonna restart it so we can see a clear screen of it. So here I hit, but it happens so quick. See if I hit this and release. So it sent it node 36 with velocity 125, but and then send it again on velocity 0. This is a momentary setup. The toggle will be, which I don't have the setup for the toggle right now, but the toggle will be the opposite. It will only send specific value only when you press on it. It will not send again another value when you release. So that's another important thing, because that was another issue I used to face. Sometimes I want it to be toggle, not momentary, and I hit and I release, it goes off again, it doesn't work properly as I'm expecting, or the other way around. So that's the other thing I wanted to share about toggle and momentary. And yeah, if you like this video, if you want more to see things like this, please hit like and subscribe, and I appreciate you watching all the way at the end. All right, thank you.